Yeah, so it's Parshas Vayigash. After 22 painful years of separation, finally, Yaakov and Yosef are about to meet. Yosef comes down to Mitzrayim, and the pasuk says, "Vayesor Yosef merkavtoi vayal likras Yisrael oviv goshno." Yeah, he harnessed his chariot, and he's moving towards his father Yaakov. Vayero Elov, Vayipoil al Tzavorov, Vayev al Tzavorov oid. So there are 5 verbs in this pasuk. I mean, Vayesor, Vayal, Vayero, Vayipoil, Vayev. But all of them are about what Yosef is doing. Yaakov seems not to be doing anything. I mean, Yosef is the one that's coming to Yaakov. He's the one that's being seen. He's the one that falls on Yaakov's tzavor. He's the one that cries. What about, what is Yaakov doing? You know, he doesn't even respond, at least according to Rashi. According to the Ramban and the Rabbeinu Bachye, when it says Vayipoil and Vayev al tzavor of oid, that's referring to Yaakov and not to Yosef. But according to Rashi, everything that's being done in this pasuk is being done by Yosef. By Yosef.
Yeah, the camera isn't on, if the Rashiva doesn't mind.
Oh, I don't know. Now it's on. No, now it's a stop video. I don't know what happened because it's open. What could be the? I don't know.
Mehetgit.
Okay, that's right. I can't understand what happened over here. I opened the video and it doesn't work. Okay. Anyway, the mice is like this. So what's the Indian? Yeah. So why is Yaakov not even responding? Especially that we know that Rachamei Ha'av al Haben are greater than the Rachamei Haben al Ha'av, as the Gemara says in Pesachim Daf Beis Amid Beis. So Yaakov should have been more emotional about this meeting, and especially that we know that Yaakov assumed during all this time that Yosef was killed. And when he was told, Oid Yosef Chai, I mean, when he was told that his son is still alive, it's Vayofeg Liboy Kilohem in Lohem. So Yaakov should have been overcome with emotion, and he doesn't do anything. You could say that because he was so overcome with emotion, he was paralyzed that he couldn't express himself in any which way, whereas Yosef, who all the time knew that his father was alive, and Yosef is only a son and not a father, so therefore Yosef was able to express himself and do all these things. But Chazal have a different mahalach, and they say, as Rashi says, Avol Yaakov loy nofal al savrei Yosef v'loy neshokoi. Yaakov didn't fall over Yosef, he didn't kiss him. V'amru Rabbi Seinu shahoya koirei es shema. That the reason for this is because he was learning Shema. So they already asked the Maharal and the Gur Aryeh and others if this was the Zman Kriyas Shema. So Yosef should have also been learning Kriyas Shema. So it would seem that it wasn't the Zman Kriyas Shema. And Yaakov Avinu's reading of Shema at this moment, it was a special reading of Shema because of what's going on, because of his meeting with Yosef, is reading Shema. But what's the connection between the meeting of Yaakov with Yosef and the reading of Shema? Earlier, the pasuk says, "Vayomer anoichi hokel Elokei avicha al tiro merido mitzroimo v'anoichi alcha gam oloi." Hashem promises, I will bring you up from Mitzrayim. V'Yosef yoshis yodoi aleinecha. Yosef will put his hands on your eyes. What does that mean? Reb Saadia Gaon says, Ya'atzim einecha. He will close your eyes. L'chara, that means, like the Ibn Ezra says, yoshis yodoi aleinecha b'moischa, that when you will die, Yosef will put his hands on your eyes. Kain minig achayim im amesim. So was the minig that the living did with the dead. And that's like the Cheskuni says in its first pshat. Minig hu shachayim oisim im amesim shesoigrim einehem samuch achar haptira. There was a minig that the living would shut the eyelids of the deceased at the time of the ptira. V'hoyom avtichoi, HaKadosh Baruch Hu is promising Yosef, that is promising Yaakov that Yosef will be there at the time of his death, and he'll close his eyes, and therefore Memela v'yigzor loy lo hoitzioi mi Mitzrayim v'lo hilichoi el ha'ma'ora. So according to all these Rishonim, the Yosef's Yoshis Yodei Aleinecha is talking about something that Yosef will do for Yaakov at the moment of his death. Whereas the Rashbam says, Yoshis Yodei Aleinecha al inyonecha utzrochecha yishtadel la'asoisa kidiksiv Yoshis Yodei al shnenu. Lashon HaPasuk in Iyov. So also in the Sforno, he says, Yoshis Yodei Aleinecha lo titzarech lifkoyach einecha lahasik chafotzecha. You will not have to keep your eyes open. In other words, you will not have to overlook your affairs, look into your affairs, take care of your own things. Lo titzarech lifkoyach einecha lahasik chafotzecha ki Yosef yageh meilecha bezulas hashgochoscha v'lo titzarech ato l'hisasek im hamitzriyim habilti ru'uyim. So the Rashbam is saying, the Sforno is saying, Yoshis Yodei Aleinecha is about that he so to speak, he'll close your eyes. You're not going to have to look. You'll be able to follow his guidance, his instructions with closed eyes. You won't have to take care of your own affairs. But from my father, Zechreinu Levracha, I heard that in Sifrei Kabbalah HaKadmoini, it says on this another reading, another meaning in V'Yosef Yoshis Yodei Aleinecha. It says V'Yosef Yoshis Yodei Aleinecha do Raza de Kriyashma. This is the secret of Kriyashma. No, the fact that Kriyashma is alluded to in the phrase Yoshis Yodei Aleinecha, Avada rings of what the Torah says in Siman Samach Aleph in Arachaim, v'yesh noyagim shenoisnin yedeim al peneihem b'kriyas haposuk harishon, that there are those that are noyag, like we are noyag, to cover their eyes when they read the posuk of Shema Yisrael. V'rayosam, where's this based on? V'rayosam, they bring a rayim iperik based the brachas, where it says Rebbe kad have monach yodei ha'einei have korelo. That Rebbe was in the middle of the shir, he would put his hand on his eyes, and he would say the pasuk Shema Yisrael. And the Torah explains Pirush Kavonasai Shelo Yistakel B'Davar Acher Shemoinoi Milachavim. The reason for covering the eyes is in order that you shouldn't be looking at anything that will interfere with your kavanah. The Rosh in Brachas over there says, that since Rebbe was sitting b'toich hatzibur, no, but if we're just talking about covering the eyes in order to avoid any distractions, it's hard to understand that we would refer to this as Raza, the Kriyashma, that the Yoshis Yodei Aleinecha represents the secret of Kriyashma. It's interesting that the Makor Chaim, which is Hagois on Or Chaim from the Chavois Yoyer, Reb Yoyer Bakrak, who he lived in, he was nifte in Tov Samach Beis, in 1702. So in the Hagois Makor Chaim, he says, yes, on this halacha in Shulchan Aruch, he says, yes, gam yesh by soid nifla leyoidechem. That there's a deep secret in this inyan of covering the eyes. B'shas yelein kriyashma. So in spite of the fact that we're not yoidechem, Yoidei Chen really means Chen Chochma Nesteres, it stands for. But nevertheless, maybe we can have some understanding of this on our level. And first, we need to understand why the secret of Kriya Shema is alluded to in this pasuk that's dealing with Yaakov's Yerida to Mitzrayim to meet Yosef. The Yosef Yoshes Yodei Alenecha. You know, we say Friday night in the Lechadoidi, we say Shamar v'Zachar b'dibur echad hishmianu keil hamayuchad Hashem echad u'shmoy echad l'shem l'seferes u'l'sehila. Now, the Python puts the Shamar before the Zachar, in spite of the fact that in Chumash, the Zachar appears already in Parshas Yisro, and the Shamar appears only in Parshas Vayischanon much later. Well, it's not shver because Zachar v'Shamar b'dibur echad nemru, so there is really no say there. So you can put the Shamar before the Zachar before the Shamar. And since his name was Shlomo Alkabitz, and he wanted to have his name Merumas in the Roshei Tevis, so he put the Shin before the Lamed, and therefore it's Shamar and not a Zachar. But Mistama, there's also a deeper meaning. So, and in the end of the day, if there's no order, because Shamar v'Zachar b'dibur echad nemru and Zachar v'Shamar b'dibur echad nemru, so we should l'chayra use the order of the psukim in the Torah. And nevertheless, he puts the Shamar before the Zachar. I want to explain why. Now, we also need to understand, what does it mean? Shamar v'Zachar b'dibur echad hishmi'onu keil hamayuchad. What is the connection between this and the fact that Hashem echad u'shmoy echad? It seems from the Nusach that Shamar v'Zachar b'dibur echad hishmi'onu keil hamayuchad Hashem echad u'shmoy echad is like why the Zachar v'Shamar was hishmi'onu b'dibur echad. And the Amos, you know, that the Hashem echad u'shmoy echad is Bayom Ahu, Yiyeh, Hashem echad u'shmoy echad. Shabbos, we observe throughout all the generations. So how is the Zachar v'Shamar b'dibur echad connected with the idea of Hashem echad u'shmoy echad? You know, the shir Shahoyu Halavim Oimrim Bebeis Hamikdash on Shabbos is the Mizmor Tzadik Beis in Tilim, which opens with a pasuk Mizmor Shir LeYom HaShabbos. Now, in spite of the fact that this is the only one of the Shir Shel Yoms that explicitly mentions the day for which it's a shir, Mizmor Shir LeYom HaShabbos, on the other hand, as far as the content of this Mizmor, we don't see any special connection with the day of Shabbos. As he continues, and he says, Tov L'Hoidis L'Hashem, L'Zameh L'Shimcha Elyon, L'Hagi B'Bay K'Chazdecha, B'Frech Hashem K'may Yosef, Tzadik Hashem Yifrach. All this is true all week long. It has no special connection with Shabbos. On the other hand, the other Shir Shel Yoms, in spite of the fact that they don't explicitly name the particular day that it's the Shir of, the Gemara in Rosh Hashanah Daf Lamed Aleph does explain the connection of each one of these Shirim with a day. As the Gemara says, Barishon we say, La Hashem ha'aretz u'meloyo, shekono v'hikne v'shalid ba'olamoi. Whatever that means, B'sheni, we say, Godel Hashem u'mehulel me'oid, shechilek ma'asov u'malach aleim. In any case, each one of the Shirim is mechuven, Keneged, what was created that day in the Sheishes Yemei Bereishis. But as far as the Shir of Shabbos, the Gemara says nothing. How it connects with the Shabbos of Yemei Bereishis. Maybe there is no Shabbos of Yemei Bereishis, but the Gemara doesn't say. However, what it says, as far as the Mizmor Shir Yom HaShabbos is concerned, it says, Mizmor Shir L'Yom HaShabbos, L'Yom Shekuloi Shabbos U'Menucha l'chai ho'olam. So the Mizmor Shir L'Yom HaShabbos doesn't connect to the past. It actually connects to the future. It's a Mizmor Shir L'Yom Shekuloi Shabbos U'Menucha L'chei ho'olam. So what's the pshat? The L'Yom Shekuloi Shabbos. What's the pshat that the shir of every day is based on the Sheishes Yemei Bereishis, whereas the shir of Shabbos is based on La'asid Lova. And we also still don't know what's the connection of the Yom Shekuloi Shabbos to the content of this Mizmor. Where does this Mizmor talk about the Yom Shekuloi Shabbos? So we can say like this, in the She'iltis of Rabbi Choy Goin in the beginning of Parshas Bereishis, it says, the Mechayvin, the Beis Yisrael, the Meinach b'Yom Shabbat. They Yidden HaMechoyev to be noch, to rest on Shabbos. And why is that, says the Shiltis, the Kadbar, Ye Kutshu B'Richu La'almei, when HaKadosh Baruch Hu created the world, Bar Ye B'Shita Yomi. He created it in 6 days. V'noch b'Yom Shabbat, and he rested on the day of Shabbos. U'borchei v'katshe, and he blessed it, and he sanctified it. Ke'inish debana beise, like a person who builds a house, v'kadmatz v'slei. The Mefarshim say when he establishes it, he finishes it, he's miyatsev the house, he brings it to the Gemara Tikun, v'gomar leila ividite, ovid hilul chad yoyme. He makes a party one day. Kida amri inshe, hilul bati. So in other words, Shabbos is the day of the Chanukas Habayis of the world. And the Shiltas is saying that our Shabbos is about participating in the Rebbeinu Shalom's Chanukas Habayis, in the Rebbeinu Shalom's Simcha of Kadmatz V'Slei, the Gomar Le'Yividite, Ovid Hilul L'Chad Yoyma. The Rebbeinu Shalom rejoices with the Gemara of Ma'aseh Bereishis, and we participate in that Simcha of the Chanukas Habayis. But l'chara we can ask, B'Shalom HaKadosh Baruch Hu, Vayar Elokim es kol asher asa, v'hinei tov moi. He sees the big picture. He knows how it all makes sense, and he knows that it's tov moi. But we, only see fragments and bits and pieces here and there, and we don't actually see that the quality of life in this house is that great. Yeah. So how are we expected? We don't really see the tov moed, because if you see the kol asher also, you see the tov moed. But if you don't see the kol, you don't necessarily see the tov moed. So how are we expected to participate in the Rebbeinu Shalom Simcha of the Chanukas Habayis? If we live in a world of derech rishoyim tzalecha and nivnu oisei risha gam bochanu elokim vayimaletu, we live in a world of rosha v'toivloi and tzadik v'raloi. So how could we actually participate in the Chanukas Habayis of the world? So I would say that that's the idea of Zohar v'Shomer b'Dibur Echad Nemru. What do I mean? The Zohar in the Dibros Rishonos is connected to the Sheishes Yomim Osa Hashem Es Hashamayim V'Zoretz. That's the time for Shmiras Shabbos that appears in Parshas Yisro, is the Zeichel L'Maaseh Bereishis. And that's the context of the Zohar. On the other hand, in the Dibrei Shniyos, where it says Shomor Es Yom HaShabbos L'Katshoy, there's no talk about Maaseh Bereishis. In the Dibrei Shniyos, the reason for Shmiras Shabbos is V'Zacharta Ki Eved HaYisrael Be'eretz Mitzrayim Vayotziacho Hashem Elokecha Mishom B'Yod Chazokeh Uve'Zroya Netuya Al Kein Tzivcha Hashem Elokecha L'Asas Yom HaShabbos. So the Shabbos of the Shomor is the Zeicher L'Yetzias Mitzrayim. So there's a connection and even a dependence. These two dimensions that Shabbos has, the Zohar and the Shomer, the Zeicher L'Maaseh Bereishis and the Zeicher L'Yetzias Mitzrayim, are actually dependent one on the other. Because you see, Chazal say that since Zohar v'Shomer b'Dibur Echad Nemru, we learn from this, as the Gemara says in Shavuos Daf Chof, Kol sheyeshnoi b'shmira, yeshnoi b'schira. Why are women mechuyev in Kiddush? Because Kol sheyeshnoi b'shmira, and they are prohibited with the lavim of Shabbos. Kol sheyeshnoi b'shmira, yeshnoi b'schira. which means that the Zeichel of Ma'aseh Bereishis and the Zeichel of Yetzias Mitzrayim are dependent on each other. B'dibur echad nemru. What does that mean? Ani ma'amin, we say be'emunah shleima sha'boirei is baruch shemoi hu boirei u'manhig l'chol habruim. So he's also the boirei and also the manhig. V'hu levadoi osa v'oisa v'yasa l'chol ha'mais. So the Zohar Etzreim HaShabbos Likachi instills within us the emunah in the fact that HaKadosh Baruch Hu is the boirei. Zeichel ha'ma'aseh bereishis. The Shomor, which is the Zeichel Yetzias Mitzrayim, instills in us the emunah in the manhig, that the Rebbeinu Shalom is not only the Osa, but he's also the Osa v'Yasa l'chol ha'masim. He intervenes in Hanhagas ha'olam. He intervenes in history. He took us out of Mitzrayim. And we say, V'loi nesatoi Hashem Elokeinu l'goyei ha'arotzos. V'loi hinchaltem Elokeinu lo'ivdei psilim. Whoever is not part of the Shmira, whoever didn't experience the godly intervention in Hanhagas ha'olam as we experienced it in Yetzias Mitzrayim, he's not included in the Shomor of Yetzias Mitzrayim, so he's also not connected with the Zohar of Ma'aseh Bereishis, because only if it's all planned by the Koirei Hadoros Meirosh, that's Magid Mireishis Achris, only if there's meaning to everything that happens in this world, could you be mishtatif in the Chanukas Habayis of the world. Only if you believe that it all makes sense. Yes, so then you could be mishtatif in the Chanukas Habayis of Brias Oilam. But if you don't see the Rebbeinu Shalom in Hanhagas Oilam, so there's no room for participating in the Chanukas Habayis of Brias Oilam. And that's the Zohar v'Shomar b'dibur echad nemru. Misha yeshnoi b'shmira. Yes, somebody that understands the secret of Yetzias Mitzrayim is yeshnoi be. One second, am I on? Yeah, okay. Yeshnoi b'shmira, yeshnoi b'schira. And that's bemis the content. That's the content of the Mizmor Shir L'Yom HaShabbos. Because we say Toiv L'Hoidos L'Hashem, etc. Ve'emunascha b'leilos ki simachtani Hashem b'folecha b'masei yadecha aranein. I rejoice in all your doings, in spite of the fact that the divine justice is not always seen. But nevertheless, we instill within ourselves the emunah in Magodlu Masecha Hashem Moed Omku Machshaveisecha. Ishbar, we recognize Lo Yeda, Uchse Lo Yavin Ezois. And therefore, even when we see Befroyach Rishoim K'moy Esev, Vayatzitzu Kopay Ala Yovim, we see the success of the Rishoim, we believe that it's all in order to bring them Lihishom Dam Adiyat. And in the end, it will become clear that Va'ata Morim La'olam Hashem, Ki Hine Oivecha Hashem, Ki Hine Oivecha Yoivedu, Yispar L'Kopay Ala Yovim. And we're sure that in the end of days, Vatorem Kirem Kani Baloisi B'Shem En Rama. And then Tzadik Atom or Yifrach, Ke'erez Bavon Yizgesh Sul Meveis Hashem. Because that's the way it is. In this world, it's not visible. We can't see it. We can't see the divine justice. Adarabah, we see Derech Rishoim Tzalecha, Nivnu Eisei Rishon, Tachrish, Bevala, Rosho, Tzadik Mimen. But nevertheless, we believe in the emunah of Shomor, even also in the meaning of Aviv Shomar Esadovar, waiting, anticipating. We believe, and we anticipate that we will see that it all has meaning, and in the end, it will all become clear. So therefore, the Mizmor Shir L'Yom HaShabbos is actually the Mizmor L'Yom Shekulei Shabbos. And it's not like the other Shirim of the other days that go back to Ma'aseh Bereishis, because the Indian of Shabbos is Hilula the Bati, the Chanukas Habayis of the world, that we're invited to participate in. And this participation is only possible by seeing the Tov Moed in this world. And for that, we need to have a view of the big picture of Kol Asher Asa, and that's therefore only by the Te'ima in Shabbos as a Me'ein Olam Haba, Yom Shabbos Menucha, could we connect with Shabbos Mizmor Shir L'Yom HaShabbos L'Yom Shekuloi Shabbos Menucha L'Chai Ha'olam. Yeah. The Rambam in Sefer HaMitzvahs Mitzvah Beis says, "Hi hatzivui shetzivonu b'ha'amonas hayichud." Ha'amonas hayichud means to believe in the oneness, or ha'amona is actually a lesson of forcing upon ourselves the belief in unity. V'hu shena'amin b'foyel hametzius v'sibasei harishoyna echad. V'hu amoroi. Where do we have this mitzvah of believing in God's oneness? V'hu amoroi yishma Yisrael Hashem Elokeinu Hashem echad. Uberoi v'amidrashis timtzaim omrim al menas liyached es shemi al menas liyachdeini chulei. And he says, "V'yikru gam kein zois hamitzvah malchus shamayim, ki heim oimrim kidei lekabel olav malchus shamayim." Ratzaloymar hahoidoh, the admission, b'hayichud v'ha'amonasai, that's called malchus shamayim. Now, I mean, if a person actually believes, for real, b'emunah shleima, that the poel hametzias v'sibasai is echad, so it's not a oil, it's not a yoke. What does it mean that Chazal referred to Kriya Shema as Kabbalas oil Malchus Shamayim? I mean, either you believe or you don't believe. I mean, how is this a Kabbalas oil Malchus Shamayim? So maybe, there's a pasuk in Zechariah, V'hoya Hashem l'melech ha'kol ha'oretz, b'yoyim hahu, yiyeh Hashem echad u'shmo echad. So the pasuk is saying that only b'yoyim hahu it will become clear. The divine unity will only become clear by Yom Hahu. But by Yom Hahu, Hashem echad u'shmo echad. In this world, in the Olam Hazeh, you can't grasp it. You can't really get it. So therefore, the admission in the Yichud Hashem and the Ha'amona of Yichud Hashem is really only possible in a way of Kabbalas oil. On this pasuk of Bayom Hahu Hashem echad u'shmo echad, the Gemara says, "Psachim otu ha'ivne." Psachim dafnun otu ha'idne lav echadu. Who is going to be echad, and now he's not echad. Omer Ravacha b'chanina loy ka'olam hazeh ha'olam habo. Ha'olam hazeh al b'soiros toivos omer baruch atayva meitiv. V'al b'soiros rois omer baruch dainamis. Ha'olam habo kuloi ha'toiva meitiv. Now the simple reading of this Gemara is that ha'olam habo, Ravacha b'chanina is saying there will not be any bad news. There'll only be good news, and therefore we're only going to be making Baruch Atayva Meitiv, and we won't be making Baruch Dayan Hoemes. However, if that's what he means, he should say Lo'olam Haba Kulei B'Seres Tevis. It's not what he says. He says Lo'olam Haba Kulei Atayva Meitiv. So in the Tzlach, he brings what he heard by Aldusoi from the Rav HaMechiach HaGodol Reb Ephraim Raishe, the Chroinel of Roche, the Magid of the Kehillah Kedosha, the Brod, that he said that really what it means is that l'osiv lavai, it will become clear to us, l'mafreya, that kulei atayva meitiv, that even the bad news, even what we considered bad news in Olam Hazeh, and we made on those besoros rois baruch dayan oemes, but l'olam haba kulei atayva meitiv, it will become nizbar that it was all good. And that's the answer to the otu ha'idne lav echad. It means avada, in truth, it's echad. But ha'idne, in this world, we can't grasp the echad. And on our level, we really have to say on B'Soros Rois Baruch Dayan Ha'emes, and only on B'Soros Toives Baruch HaToiv HaMeitiv. But La'asid Lavoi B'Yoyim Hahu, it will become clear to us that Hashem Echad U'Shmo Echad. And the Tzlach further on Daf Nun Vav, he's mefarish the pasuk of Shema Yisrael Hashem Elokeinu Hashem Echad, based on the Gemara that says B'Yoyim Hahu, on the pasuk B'Yoyim Hahu Yeh Hashem Echad U'Shmo Echad Otu Ha'idne Lav Echad. And Rav Nachman Bar Yitzchak says Lo Yikol Olam Hazeh Ha'olam Haba. Ha'olam Hazeh nichtav b'Yud Kei v'nikra b'Aleph Daled. We don't say the Shem Havaya. Aval Ha'olam Haba Kuloi Echad, says the Gemara in Psachim. Because it's nichtav b'Yud Kei v'nikra b'Yud Kei. So the Tzlach says Upirush Advarim de ba'Olam Hazeh ha'hanhoge nireis ka'adnus v'din. Therefore, we can't verbalize the Havaya, which is the Midas HaRachamim. We have to say Elokim. Achla oilam haba, we say adnos, aleph daled nun yud, which is also a lashon of din. Aval oilam haba, yisbarer, that shelekushte, hakoil havaya midas harachamim. V'hainu Hashem Elokeinu Hashem Echad, sheyizbarer she'elokim v'havaya Hashem Elokeinu appear as two separate hanhagis in this world. But la'asid lavoi, we will see that it's havaya echad, that it's kuloi rachamim. That's what the tzlach says. So lefize, we understand that the admission that Hashem is one is a Kabbalah's oil in this world because we can't really grasp it. But the avodah of Kabbalah's oil Malchus Shamayim is to take upon ourselves ba'ahava, the oil of the anhaga that seems like din and adnos, the oil of besoros that are grasped as ro'os, mitoich emunah, in the Yichud Hashem, that will only be revealed to us in Achris HaYamim. So we say, Shamar v'zocher b'dibur echad hishmiyanu kelam miyuchad Hashem echad u'shmo echad. Shabbos is me'ein olam haba, when it will be Nizgala the Yichud. As the Zohar says, Roza the Shabbos, Ihi Shabbos, the Isachodas beRoza the Echad, L'mishrei alo Roza the Echad, and therefore Zocher v'Shamar b'dibur echad nemru. Shamar v'zocher b'dibur echad nemru. Hishmiyanu kelam miyuchad Hashem echad u'shmo echad. Because through the Shamar of Shabbos, as a Zeichel Yetzias Mitzrayim, when we saw the Chazdei Hashem in Anhogas Oilam, we can connect with also with the Zohar of Shabbos B'Torah Zeichel Amaisa V'Reishes, and we can participate in the Simcha of Chanukah Sabayis of Hakadosh Baruch Hu, and somehow connect with the Vayar Elokim Es Kol Asher Asa B'Hinei Tov Moed. So according to this, the idea of covering the eyes b'shas Kabbalah Shem Malchus Shamayim, as the Torah says, Shelo Yistakel B'Davar Acher Shemoinoi Milachaven, has a deeper meaning, because if you think that what you see is what you get, if you look into the real world, in the world of Olam K'Menhagei Noyeg, as it appears to us here and now, that really is mevalbul the kavana of the Yichud of Hashem Echad. The Roza the Kriya Shema is to remove ourselves from seeing this world and to take upon ourselves the emunah that even if to our eyes it seems like besoros rois, nevertheless that's only chitzonius, and in the truth it's all b'chlal atov ha'meitiv havaya echad. Now the story of Yosef is really a story that's all about this. It seemed like the greatest tragedy. But in the end of the day, in the end of many days, it became clear that Elokim chashav al toiva, and lemichyos lochani Elokim lefneichem lahachyos am rav lefleito gedola. The whole ishtalshalos of the story of Yosef expresses this idea of the internal chesed in the external din, the toiv that's within the b'soros rois. Hashem Elokeinu, Hashem Echad. The Meshech Chochmah writes b'zeh aloshon, the Yosef Yoshis Yodoi al einecha yitochen ki amaloi shebal yachkor be'iyunoi u'be'einav ha'sichliyin al tachlis u'mahus ha'inyin shetzorich leil mitzrayim avalalis. He's telling him, don't think too much about, don't try to understand. Ki mazeh tachlis v'siba leizer shlemus, don't think about it. Omar ki ha'inyin shel Yosef Yoshis Yodoi al einecha. Think about what happened with Yosef. That will teach you to shut your eyes. Yosef, Yoshes Yodei Alenecha. Shebal tachkor ubal testakel achedarke ashkoche. Kimoi kimi milel ze asher atzar shel Yosef hier letachlis nirtze kazeh. Could you ever have imagined that? Sheyodu b'Mitzrayim v'yeh l'shalev v'yeh farsem deyois tzayfkois v'chol ha'aretz yu kfufim loy halo zeh ha'inyan dai. Losim yad v'lechasois hashkofas einecha v'habotas havonoscha hamuchoshis v'zel derech hatzachos, says the Meshech Chochmah, and that's the Roza the Kriya Shema. That's the secret of Kriya Shema, covering our eyes and recognizing that what we see is not what we get. And the Mela, the pshat is that when Yosef when Yaakov sees Yosef, who's Oimid B'tzidkosai, and he's a Moshe B'chol Eretz Mitzrayim, and he meets him, he learns Shema, because that's what Shema is about. It's the Emunah and Hashem Elokeinu Hashem Echad, because now Yaakov Avinu came up to a higher level in the Kabbalah's oil, Emunah Sayichud, and therefore he now learns Kriya Shema. Anyway, so that's really the Indian. Every Shabbos is a day of Zohar v'Shomer, of Shomer v'Zohar. It's not just a day of prohibitions, but it's a day of Zohar. It's Yom HaShabbos l'Kadashai. It's a day when we are meant to be mizboinen and have a te'ima in the Me'ein Olam Haba, in the Hashem Echad U'Shmo Echad, which is the root of the Shomer v'Zohar b'Dibur Echad. Okay.